Well, I grew up in a Baptist minister's home, and so I learned about Christ from day one. Basically, I grew up in Sunday school in the church, and I actually made a commitment to Christ when I was 6 years old, and it was real to me back then. But I think I had a bit of a rebellious nature. There was something inside of me that wanted to try things for myself, and so in my later teens, I really rebelled against God and the things that my family and my father represented especially. I was the only son, so I think a lot of people thought I was going to be a minister, just like my dad. And so I was going to do everything opposite of my father. So I became a private investigator, and later became involved in organized crime even, and was very far from God. You know, similar to the story of the prodigal son. I was in a far-off land and was running from the things of God. So as a private investigator, there's a very fine line between the law enforcement officer and the criminal. In fact, a good cop usually has a bit of a criminal mind. And so really I just stepped over that line in this pursuit of excitement and adrenaline, because as an adrenaline junkie that I had been my whole life, I just wanted, you know, things to be faster and more exciting. So to go from law enforcement, I was an undercover agent, then got into organized crime. It was, once I got in, then I went full blast into that. And you know, what started off as, it was a car theft ring in Montreal, and what started off as I'll sell a couple of cars to make some fast money turned into waking up, going to bed every day, to crime. And it's just the sort of thing that, it's a very slippery slope, and if you're running from God on top of it, then you're going to go as far in that direction as you can. Well, as it turned out, you know, they had been following us for about 8 months, and my phone had been bugged for 8 months. They had been photographing our activities in Montreal. It was a large car theft ring. At the time, they told us it was the biggest in the history of the province of Quebec. And so basically Monica and I, my wife and I, had a rude awakening one morning in our Montreal apartment. There was plainclothes detectives standing at the end of our bed, and they had a warrant to search our apartment. No, so what happened was, it took 3 years before I was eventually charged. Before I was eventually convicted of the charges. And it was during that time that I came back to God, during an evangelistic crusade in Montreal. Even to this day, I don't know why I accepted my father's invitation and went to this crusade, but it was there that I had basically an appointment with the Holy Spirit. And he convicted me of my sin and showed me that he wanted to be a friend, that it wasn't about religion, but that it was a relationship with him. And so then it was, you know, during the following 3 years, I was in and out of court, and eventually I was sentenced by a Montreal judge. It was a miracle sentence. I got 6 months in prison, $5,000 fine, and 2 years probation. But by then, I had, you know, grown in my faith and my knowledge of God, and I was just trusting Him for every day. But God began to do something in my spirit and show me that there's so much more than bigger houses and better cars. That really He wanted to use me to reach out to other people, and especially people in the marketplace. I've started working for an organization called the Leader Impact Group, which is a ministry that Paul Henderson, the hockey player, started 30 years ago. And he had a vision for marketplace leaders to go out and reach those guys with the gospel, really a ministry of evangelism and discipleship. The guys who are in business who might not, you know, be easily approached to go to church or even to open up a conversation about faith. And he believed there was a real need for that ministry. And so I'm so excited that 6 months ago that I joined his ministry, and I've been, you know, doing it now for the last 6 months.